In this video, we're going to discuss important hurricane insights and how to prepare for an oncoming storm. I thought it was a really good time to do this video because right now, Florida is waiting or bracing for oncoming Hurricane Ian. Florida hurricane statistics. Let's start off with general statistics because one of the first questions I always get is, which areas in Florida are the safest from hurricanes? Per the Florida Climate Center, it is a misperception to think that some parts of Florida do not get hurricanes. But statistically speaking, the southeast coastline and panhandle are more prone to direct hits, followed by southwest Florida. But it's important to note that a hurricane can really strike anywhere in Florida. As a matter of fact, Hurricane Ian is approaching the Sarasota, Venice area. The impact of hurricanes can vary greatly between cities that are even just 1 hour apart. So for example, Sarasota has been spared from major hurricane damage, but Punta Gorda, which is just 1 hour south of Sarasota, just hasn't been that lucky. According to a report by Universal Property and Casualty Insurance Company, more than 41% of all hurricanes that hit the US have also brushed through Florida. So right now that's 120 in total since 1851, and pretty soon it'll probably be 121, assuming that Ian comes our way. Hurricane season. The official hurricane season runs from June 1st to November 30th, with the peak between mid-August to late October. Hurricane levels are classified by their peak winds, known as the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale. The scale runs from Category 1 to 5, with 5 being the most catastrophic. Category 1 starts with 74 miles per hour winds, and Category 5 with over 155 miles per hour winds. Hurricane impact. A hurricane can have mild outcomes or detrimental depending on how severe the storm was. Major hazards associated with a hurricane are high winds, storm surge, heavy rainfall, rip current, and tornadoes. And it's high wind, which is the one hazard we envision when we think of a hurricane. The eye wall, a region outside of the center of the hurricane, also known as the eye, will have the highest winds. Hurricane force winds can do a lot of damage, such as uprooting mobile homes, damaged roofs, and trees. The biggest threat to life and property are actually storm surges. A storm surge is when a hurricane travels over the open sea and pushes the water forward towards the shoreline above the predicted astronomical tides. Approximately 90% of all hurricane-related deaths are actually due to drowning in surges or flooding. Hurricane Irma, for instance, caused major storm surge damage in such places as Miami and Fort Lauderdale in 2017. Track an oncoming storm. For detailed weather updates, you're going to want to watch your local news channel. You can also track spaghetti models, which I love to do, for the predicted path of a storm. Supercomputers are used in weather forecasting by running complex equations based on atmospheric conditions. There are two popular weather models used to forecast tropical storms and hurricanes. These models are GFS from the US and the ECMWF, also known as the Euro model. The GFS creates 21 forecasts and the European model generates 51. The forecasts, when you plot it on a graph, look like lines resembling spaghetti, hence spaghetti models. The GFS model is run by the US government and the European model is run by an independent venture supported by 34 European nations. It is said that the European model has performed better than the GFS based on past predictions. To track the predicted path of a storm or a hurricane, I recommend you install an app called windy.com on your phone, and that way you have it handy. You can also tap into the website version at windy.com. What's great about windy.com is that it gives you the option to refer to the US or the European model's predicted path, so you can look at the two of them. Depending on the predicted severity of a hurricane and where you live, you may actually need to evacuate. Here's the legend that lists all of the evacuation zones. Zone A is usually the first one to evacuate, so you're going to want to know which zone you live in. There are many different resources to help you identify your zone if you don't know it. And what you're going to want to do is type in your address and then see which zone it falls under using the color legend. So I typed in a Sarasota address, which falls in the yellow area, which is zone C. If your home is not safe because it's in an evacuation zone or it's not deemed hurricane proof, your local government will have places for you to seek shelter. Typically, those places will be in schools. You may also have an option and stay with friends and family who are deemed to be in a safe home, in a hurricane-proof home. Just know in advance where you're going to go, and also make sure you know your evacuation route. The situation is going to vary depending on where you live in Florida, and so it's very important that you follow your local emergency management program. Tap into them for the latest information. And it's usually tied to the county website. So for example, for local Sarasota evacuation news, I refer to scgov.net for the latest information. Local officials are going to let you know what's happening and what zones are evacuating. If you're ordered to evacuate, just do so to remain safe. I also find that YouTube is a great resource for news-related insights. And here's the search result just from today and an example of how local officials are working to keep the public safe.
All evacuation centers will be open Tuesday, tomorrow at noon. For those who live in evacuation level A. Evacuation level A is all the red areas on the map, including all mobile homes, RVs, and folks that live on boats as well, regardless of where those mobile home parks are in the community. To find the nearest evacuation center near you, you can go to scgov.net/beprepared.
Prepare for a tropical storm or a hurricane. If you need to evacuate, you're going to want to prepare a disaster supply kit. This is a very stressful situation, and thank goodness there are many helpful checklists you can refer to, such as this one from floridadisaster.org, to help you get prepared and organized. I would say at the very least though, you're going to want to have the following: your medication if you take any, water, battery-powered radio, flashlight, extra batteries, first aid kit, not perishable food that can last for days, food for your dogs if you have any dogs, important documents such as birth certificates and put them in plastic bags, cell phone with a charger, toilet paper, clothes, and extra gas in your car. Be mindful that before hurricane hits, gas in the essentials and grocery stores can go quickly, so you're going to want to stock up as soon as there's an indication that a bad storm is approaching. Now, it can be a real pain to prepare for a hurricane beyond putting together a hurricane emergency kit, such as having to bring in your furniture and other little things that could fly during heavy winds. And so the big question I always get is, at what point do you decide to bring in all these smaller or even mid-sized items? I personally remove anything from the outside, such as furniture, bikes, and pots, even if a level 1 hurricane is predicted. We just got done preparing for Hurricane Ian, which is going to make its landfall tomorrow. We brought in all the knife furniture and the plants. A hurricane level 1 produces wind speeds of 74 miles per hour or greater. Now, if only a tropical storm is predicted, I may still move items inside of the home depending on the severity of the storm. So the next logical question is, when would you actually board up the windows? And I would say that will depend, for one, on what type of windows your home has, right? If you have hurricane-proof windows, your home is going to be more protected, but you may still want to use storm shutters. You could call a local window company to gauge their feedback. Here's what Ocean Impact Windows Indoors has to say. Standard residential windows have DP values between 15 and 50. A DP 15 window can reasonably be expected to sustain winds of roughly 77 miles per hour before shattering. So then, given this information, it's probably safest to board up even for a level 1 hurricane. Even though hurricanes are a real threat to Florida, I still love living here, and so do many people. But everybody in Florida is going to need to be prepared right before a hurricane hits, because we don't know when it's coming and where it's going to hit. For your reference, I've included all the important resources in the description section of this video so you can easily tap into it for more information. Now, do me a favor, if you enjoyed this video, if you learned something new, please like this video. It does help out the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I always appreciate when you do. Take care and stay safe if you're in Florida.